Smile, and maybe tomorrow you'll find that life is still worthwhile. If you
What's so funny?
just
Freak?
if you just smile.
The Joker. This movie blew me away when I first watched it, and I think that Joaquin Phoenix absolutely deserved the Oscar for his performance. What's unique about Joker, as opposed to other comic book movies, is that it's not an action film, it's not a hero's journey, it's not a romance or horror film, but it's a tragedy, and its cinematography reflects that. Set in the 1970s, tragic circumstances befall the main character, Arthur Fleck, through mental illness, poverty, and a haunting past. His journey is about change, as in overcoming his circumstances and surrendering to his new persona, the Joker. But how does the film visualize Arthur's perspective? Well, I believe it's done through its mise en cadre, or, to put it simply, its framing. The plot itself can create empathy, whether it's through his troubled past,
Penny, your son was found tied to a radiator.
or through his laughter condition. But what about the space in which he inhabits? According to Arthur,
all of you, the system that knows so much, you decide what's right or wrong the same way that you decide what's funny or not.
he feels that the structures of society define and confine him, the mental facilities that imprisoned him, the social worker he's forced to see, the medication he's supposed to take, and the ways he's supposed to act all put him in a box. Throughout the beginning of the film, Arthur lives within the confines of society. He's surrounded by structures and buildings. In the title card shot, where Arthur lays in the alley after being beaten up, the buildings fill the frame. He's completely surrounded. This is something that comes back into play when he loses his job. Even when we see him in the bus, he's almost trapped by the glass. The city envelops Arthur, and in some frames he looks so tiny that he almost doesn't exist. This is because the camera, throughout the beginning of the movie, uses longer lenses. Cinematographer Lawrence Sher's philosophy when it came to using this type of lens was that he wanted to shrink Arthur and make him seem as only one in a sea of many, being barely noticed. In a video with Vanity Fair, director Todd Phillips explains how they use very minimal CGI in order to make the city of Gotham feel more real, but the CGI they did use was to condense the city and make it more confining.
Again, this is all live, done by Mark Friedberg, except weirdly, because I'm obsessive, I didn't like the blank space. So this building's back here, that's all put in because I wanted it to feel really oppressive, and Gotham is always over Arthur, and we just didn't love any kind of blank spaces in the skyline, so to speak.
Another great shot is when Arthur walks up the iconic stairs. The stairs are dimly lit and darkness consumes the frame. As he climbs, he looks defeated, only in the next frame to be surrounded by even more buildings when he reaches the top. Even though he's going somewhere, he can't escape the confines of society. Later in the film, Arthur goes to Arkham State Hospital to find the truth about his mother. The hospital towers over him in the frame. At this moment, it has power over Arthur. The way it dominates the frame demonstrates that power. But buildings aren't the only device that are used to show how Arthur feels trapped by society. In a much less subtle use of framing, we see a number of shots where we view Arthur through bars, like when we see him through the bars on the cage that surround the apartment mailboxes. Or when he's following his love interest, we see Arthur through a chain-linked fence. Or when Arthur is at Wayne Manor, where he's trying to talk to Mr. Wayne. In this scene, the bars work in two ways, to continue the theme of how Arthur is trapped by society, but also to show how he is trapped by his belief that he's Thomas Wayne's son. The framing is echoed by the scene where he's investigating his mother at the hospital. Arthur isn't just held back by society, but also by the way society forces him to behave. In this world, Arthur is not only abused, but he doesn't allow himself to retaliate. The power structures of this world force Arthur to sit back and suffer it. That is, until he retaliates. As soon as Arthur kills the 3 finance guys on the subway, the framing around him changes. He's shown running up the subway station stairs from a low angle, the ceiling curved upwards and seemingly far away. As Arthur exits the station, the space around him expands. He then runs through a large tunnel, and much of the frame is open and free. The camera then frames him at a low angle so that Arthur fills the space more than the buildings do. Arthur ends his flee by hiding in a bathroom, but he is no longer confined. He is transforming. He is becoming free. The camera remains intimate as Arthur begins to dance. He flows through the bathroom and is almost possessed by the liberation of his psyche. His abstract movement is a visual representation of how the internal and external combine. His thoughts and his actions are one, and he is finally gaining control of himself. For the rest of the film, whenever Arthur is confined, he often leaves those spaces and moves into the light. After he kills his mother, we see the way bars are used shift. Not only are we not looking at Arthur through bars anymore, but we can see the light coming through them. Other than the law, his mother was the only thing holding him to a sense of normalcy in society. He no longer has to structure his beliefs about the world and his past through her. He becomes his own man.
What's with the makeup then?
My mom died. Celebrating.
This is never more clear than in the scene where we visit the long staircase again. The darkness of the initial scene on the stairs is gone, and the frame's filled with light. We get closer shots of Arthur as he dances on the staircase. We see less of the structures around him. He owns the space, and the buildings no longer matter as they disappear from the frame. All that matters is Arthur. Briefly, in the next scene, we see the visual framing of bars in a scene flip. Instead of Arthur being viewed through bars, it is the detectives, who they themselves represent the structures of society, are the ones who are trapped as they pursue Arthur. Along with the protests, not only is Arthur changing, but so is the world around him. As he stands behind the curtain on The Murray Show, he dances again. He's being reintroduced to the world, as if he was escaping a cocoon. On the show, he's honest with the world, and he's honest with himself.
Ever since I killed those 3 Wall Street guys.
He is no longer Arthur Fleck. He is Joker, and Joker owns the frame. The last moment we see Joker through bars is in the back of the cop car near the end of the film. He's only seen there briefly before he's freed by the same anarchy that he created. At last, he's being noticed. At last, he is no longer confined by bars or societal structures. In one of the final shots of the film, as Joker dances, the buildings around him are far away and covered by smoke. All we see is the Joker, his audience, and the world he has created. I'd like to end my video essay with a quote. Renowned director Sergei Eisenstein, when speaking about framing, once said that the subject must be chosen thus, turned this way, and placed in the field of frame so that besides mere representation, a knot of associations results that mirror the mood and sense of the piece. This is how the dramatic style of frame is created. That is how the drama interweaves with the canvas of the work. Joker reflects this principle very clearly. Arthur's framing throughout the movie allows us to see his perspective through expressionistic means. We aren't always solely focused on Arthur, rather, we see how the world is in conversation with his perspective. This philosophy interweaves Joker cinematography with its storytelling, and in the end, tells a complete story. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed my video on Joker. Have a great day.
I'm gonna roll myself up in a big ball and